Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Sharon and here we talk tutorials, we talk plant tips, tricks and care, general things all for plant parents, whether you're a new plant parent or if you've been at it for a long time. And sometimes we just go on tangents and just talk about anything that really springs to mind. But today we've got something really special. Today we're going to have a look at inside a tissue culture lab. Now, depending on where you are in the world, you'll hear all sorts of rhetoric around tissue culture labs about how they're in secret locations and how, if you know where they are, you'll never be able to go inside. Seems like Fort Knox, sort of mafia style sort of rhetoric that sort of happens around them. Forget all of that. My good friend Paul owns one of these tissue culture labs, and he has decided today to open his doors and give us a look inside about how it all works. So without further ado, let's get into the tour. Here with my very good friend Paul Byham. Now he runs Reservoir Aquatics, a tissue culture lab in Melbourne, who specialises in aquaculture plants. Is that right?
Aquarium plants.
Aquarium plants. Okay,
Tropical
get that.
Aquarium plants.
Tropical aquarium plants. Get that right, Sharon. So we're here to have a bit of a look and to get an insight into what happens in a tissue culture lab. So Paul, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? When did you start in tissue culture?
I did a course, I got talked into doing a course back in 2008 on tissue culture at TAFE down in Fairfield. But yeah, we did a part-time course of one night a week for 12 or 14 weeks on tissue culture.
And you had a tissue culture lab up until about 2015, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then you shut that down for a couple of years?
Yes.
Yep. And then you built this facility that we're in now.
Exactly.
It's an amazing place.
Back in 2019.
Yeah. So let's go take a look at the first room. Well, I guess this is the first room. So why don't you tell me about the first room?
Well, this is the media preparation room. This is where I make tissue culture media.
Mm-hmm.
It's then autoclaved, so the media is then sterile.
Mm-hmm.
And then we work on it in the laminar flow cabinet, which is in the room next door.
Yep.
All right.
And so what are the sort of instruments that you've got here? You've got a nice looking...
stereo zoom microscope.
Right, okay.
So that you can look at your cultures or look at whatever material you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Things like your 0.1 milligram scale for measuring all your media.
Yep.
Any amount of glassware that you need for running a laboratory.
I do notice there's a lot of glass in here.
Yeah, there is. There's the volumetric flasks and beakers and measuring pipettes and all sorts of things that you need to be able to reliably and repeatedly measure things, because that's the biggest thing about running a lab is repeatability.
Yeah, I guess so. And I guess a little bit of research too into what actually works in terms of your tissue culture media as well. So tell me you've got a sexy looking lab coat. Surely everyone's got a sexy looking lab. We have a sexy looking lab coats up here. That's brilliant.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to go into the next room.
All right.
So I've seen these. So what is the point of a laminar flow hood?
Well, it filters the air and removes all the basically dust, which is probably the biggest contaminant we have when working with tissue culture.
Right, so this creates a sterile environment, doesn't it?
Not so much a sterile environment. By wiping everything down in here with alcohol and bleach and things like that, it creates a positive pressure environment.
Yep.
So what you're working on in there is a clean, sterile environment. you've seen when sunlight streams through a window.
Yeah.
All the fine dust particles that are suspended in the air.
Oh, all the time in my
That
house.
is mould, bacteria, dust, all sorts of things, which causes all your contamination in tissue culture.
Right. And so working in here, so this is where you spend time separating your plants and putting them into the media, right?
Correct. Whether it be initiating a plant that I've grown in the aquarium, or that you're growing in your hothouse or something like that, that you then want to take a piece of that plant and surface sterilise it and put it into tissue culture media.
And what is that sexy looking thing behind you over there? Come on, share with the audience.
That's my reflux still.
That's for distillery. Any gin?
That's for making. You make sterile distilled water with it. Distilled water with it.
Yep.
So for purifying water, yes, you can make alcohol with it.
Fantastic. Let's get into the gin. I'm just kidding. So I notice that you've got a temperature controlling hygrometer over there. So do you have to have this room at a certain temperature? Is it optimal or?
Not really. It's just so that I know what temperature I've got in the room, because I'm working with things like alcohol, and the higher the temperature, the closer you're getting to flash point for your alcohol. So if you're using 100% alcohol, which I use here in the lab, its flash point is 24, 25 degrees.
And what's a flash point for those that don't know?
Well, the point at which it will go flash, as in...
Combust.
Yeah, as in this is 100% alcohol. Which is how I normally would sterilise my instruments.
Right. So do they go to an autoclave first, or straight into the alcohol? Yep.
Sit in there like that. They get coated with some ethanol.
I think we're going to get a demo that involves fire, folks.
You can see how easily that flashes.
Yep.
At 25 degrees.
Right, so at a lower temperature that wouldn't happen
It
necessarily.
wouldn't happen as violently as it does.
I see. And those tools are 100% sterile?
Once they're finished, yes, you will not pick them up for several minutes.
No, I guess you wouldn't. So we let them cool down and...
That's how I sterilise my instruments before using them in the lab. Yes, you could put them in a pouch, put them in an autoclave. This is easy to do that way.
It's amazing. And so is there any other, aside from the laminar flow hood, is there any special ducted air system that you have in this room, or is that pretty
I only have an extraction pad operating in the room here to take the fumes out, because obviously I'm working with alcohol, bleach, things like that.
or flammable materials?
Not so much flammable materials, just bleach.
Like fumes, I guess.
Yes, it's just the fumes of bleach. You'll see there using household bleach to create a sterile environment inside that flow cabinet, and you're sitting there breathing it for a considerable period of time. It can irritate your throat and your nose and things like that. So I have an extraction fan here that sucks the air out and just turns the air over gently in the room to stop the fumes building.
Okay. And so you don't have to create your media in here though, do you?
No. No, my media is created in the other room.
Yep.
And the media that's already made up with
It's a light
your
agar.
sugar, agar, your nutrient mix, and any plant growth regulators that you use. It's their autoclave. It comes out of the autoclave. The lid is sitting lightly on, closes it up, and set, allow it to set. What is inside that is sterile. So you then wipe the outside down with some alcohol, put it in the laminar flow cabinet, and then
these some plants here that we've been working on?
These are ones. This is a dwarf hairgrass, which is growing in a liquid media. That's been in there for more than a month now. It starts out with just a few tiny little pieces, as I'll show you later in the grow room, and turns into a pot full of plant.
So that's actually very fast, a month to go from a little tiny couple of plantlets to a jar of that sort of. That's a lot of plants in there.
Yep.
And we'll talk about the different types of media later, but I noticed that media that you've got in there is liquid,
Correct.
not solid. So I think for those of us familiar with tissue culture, particularly in the plant community, we're very much used to seeing our agar very gelatinous or gelatinous,
Yes.
however you say that.
Yep. As in that's a solid media.
Yep, I'm used to seeing tissue plants. I've had many tissue plants delivered to me like that.
That one is a liquid media.
Well, there you go.
For growing aquatics, aquarium plants, they grow a lot better in a liquid culture than they do in on a solid media.
Interesting. We'll talk about that soon. And
Right.
you've got all your jars ready to go up over here.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Jars and more jars.
And more jars.
Yeah, and more jars. And
That's
then just
fantastic.
all the material you use in a tissue culture lab. It's easier once it's been sterilised in the autoclave to bring it in here and put it in the cupboard. Some plant growth regulators are light sensitive, so keeping them in the dark prolongs their active period.
I see. There you go. So keeping things in the dark is sometimes necessary. No lights. All right. That's been a fantastic room. Well, since we're not going to have any gin right now, we'll head over into the grow room and we can have a bit of a look at the plants that you've got growing.
All right. So that you don't get confused. This is what we were talking about before with the dwarf hairgrass. It starts out as that with a few pieces in it, and then a few weeks later, turns into that, which then gets taken out, subdivided, and put into these containers over here for further grow out. Ultimately, that then goes out to the shops to be sold.
Plant waste, really?
Plant waste, yeah.
Because they take in nutrients, but all living things expel some sort of waste. Oh, yeah, the Ultraranthra.
Red plant with dark veinage through them.
I thought the camera's picking that up. I hope it is. Yeah, no, it's definitely picking that up.
Yep. Okay.
Beautiful.
Compared to your standard Ultraranthra.
shelves and shelves of it. So, you were telling me before off camera that you start in the glass jars and then it moves to these plastic ones that are sort of sitting down here. Now they're ready for sale, aren't they?
Once they've grown to a reasonable size, they then go out to the shops that order them, and they go out to the aquarium shops, and then the hobbyists buy them from there and take them home and plant them in their aquarium.
So they're all ready to go, ready for planting.
Yes.
Okay. Then sometimes that we hear things like with tissue culture, once you buy tissue culture, just leave it there for a number of months and see how you go. So, but those are ready for planting out. Very
Correct.
nice.
The big thing
All different
is
types
they
of
are absorbing the nutrients that are in there, and once they get to a point of exhausting all their nutrients, if you don't plant them out, they will then die.
Mm.
So while some plants you can leave in tissue culture for a long period of time, like some of the Anubias here, that one's been on the media more than 6 months. Sometimes you leave them too long, you will end up with them like that.
Oh, looking very yellow.
Yes, that it's used up pretty much all of its nutrients, and if you don't get it out onto new media, you'll lose the plant.
Yeah. And I noticed just in front of us, we've also got some sad ones that didn't work. Well, we've got some ones that did work right here.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we can see all the mould in this one, which is, I assume, just a batch that it got contaminated and didn't work.
Correct. Yeah. For some reason, it's got a nice mould contamination in it.
Nice mould contamination.
Yeah,
it happens.
You have two types. You have mould and you have bacterial contamination.
Yep.
Fungal contamination. That one, I suspect, because it's across all of them, that it came off the
mother plant.
The mother plant that I subdivided. Because you look at this one, same plant,
and
several
fine.
weeks before, perfectly fine. Beautiful lot of root development on it. Mm-hmm. So that one's almost ready now to go out to...
and that's a Bacopa?
Yeah, that's a Bacopa.
It's allegedly a red.
Yes, purpley red.
Yes. Very nice. Well, I guess it's very hard not to be able to always have a sterile environment. All it really takes is just one little spore in the air.
All you've got to do is sneeze.
Yes, sneezing is bad within a tissue culture lab.
Anything while you're working on any of it. Forget what you're doing and scratch your face or whatever, and then go back to working in the sterile field. You get contamination.
Yeah, I think all of us that have tried tissue culture have at least gotten our first few batches wrong.
Yeah, we will go through that. It's a learning process that takes a long, long time. As I said, I've been doing it since 2008. Mm-hmm. I still make mistakes. We all still make mistakes. Sometimes you lose a batch of plants like this, but then I have more mother plant there that I'll just discard those and do another batch.
Yep. And I see you've got some. New ones here. Well, kind of new. Some of them look to be planted up in December. Some of them April, but they're really little and tiny, aren't they?
Yes. Some of the variegated Anubias.
And that's a Nana Pinto.
Yes.
I can see that. So what's the difference? Well, what is unique about the Nana? Is that one of the small varieties of Anubis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like the Pinto, the Nana being a very, very small Anubias. Mm-hmm. And the Pinto is the name that's been given to that colour variation.
Right. And I can see this little one here on the right here, which has got one, maybe two little plantlets in it, and that's it.
This one.
So cute.
Yeah, this one I recultured about a week ago,
mm-hmm.
and as you can see, the bright green leaf is new growth. So
it's amazing how quickly that happens.
It's already starting to react to the plant growth regulators in the media and multiply. And even if I don't know whether you can see all the little growth, all the little
I think the camera can.
The little shoots on that. Mm-hmm. That is all new nodules that will eventually I will cut up and turn into individual plantlets.
So you're also telling me recently, and I guess off camera, that there are different types of media, not just liquid and more gelatinous, but there are specific medias for propagation.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's
So
multiplication media. Here in my lab, I can use an initiation media, which may or may not have some plant growth regulators in them. I can use a multiplication media, similar to what this one's using cytokinins. And as you can see, just the massive amount of little shoots you're getting
yep, I can
out of
see
that. From one piece of plant, you get a whole lot of side shoots. So the idea of the cytokinins is to produce lots of multiplication.
And then and other times you may choose to have more of a stock media, which sort of just grows them out rather than focus on multiplication.
It doesn't have any growth regulators on it, or that have other plant growth regulators that will trigger root development. Similar to what you've got here. That's a cryptocurrine, and it's got some auxins on it to encourage root development.
So auxins, as I understand them, they are a type of hormone that encourage
plant growth regulator or hormone, yes.
Yeah, like a hormone. You have a lot of products that you might, like Root Zone and other things like that, that have got auxins in them to try and help propagate plants or give them a bit of a help along. So that's the same agent, isn't it?
It's basically the same agent, very similar to what when you're taking cuttings of plants, you dip them in a rooting powder, which is an auxin, which is a powdered version of the similar to what we use here in the lab, to stimulate root growth.
Yeah, and there's not really a lot of difference between, I mean, I guess there are some differences between doing tissue culture in aquatic plants versus tissue culture in more terra firma and the houseplant market. Would you be able to sort of identify, is there anything special that we're doing here that you wouldn't do for, say, your philodendron or your anthurium? Or, you know, is it just a matter of making sure that you have the right media?
It's a case of, yes, basically the lab, it doesn't matter whether you're doing aquatics or whether you're doing terrestrial plants. It's all a case of the right media for the right plant. Whether you're doing sugarcane, whether you're doing strawberries, whether you're doing house plants, it's all a case of the appropriate media to grow that particular plant. Well, there's a lot of research out there. There's a lot of published information that you can find from places like PubMed and things like that. A lot of it, you've just got to be prepared to do a lot of research.
Yeah, it's a lot of research.
And also a lot of trial and error yourself. That, okay, how much of this plant growth regulator do I try? You sit and try various concentrations. And by observation, you'll determine which is the best growing media for that plant.
Yeah, and they're all just a little bit different, aren't they? Because I guess plants have a lot of different requirements in terms of light. I've noticed that you've got the grow light system set up here. Do you find sometimes your plants are getting a little bit washed out if they're too high and probably would prefer a little less light?
Yes. Some of the carpet type plants like these like lots of light. Your cryptocorenes, your anubiuses, not as much.
Yeah. Exactly like in your planted tank, hey?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And you've got that's where the knowledge of keeping aquarium plants and keeping a planted aquarium tells you a lot about how you grow the plant in the lab.
So, how many different types of plants do you have here?
I have something like 30 to 40 different species of tropical aquarium plants here in the lab.
That's amazing. And this is a fairly small lab, I guess, in all seriousness. This is a relatively new. Well, I know you had the lab in the past, but this is really a new setup.
Yeah, this is a more dedicated setup. This particular room is 3.5 meters by 3 by 4.5 meters. It's currently only got the 3 racks in it. I can run another 7 racks in here later if I need to. At the moment, I can run about 1,000 containers of plants. So by the time I put the rest of it in here, you're probably 3,000 to 5,000 containers of plant.
And do you have a favourite plant out of all of these? Or does it change from time to time?
Yeah, look, it changes from time to time because there's always new plants coming in. They're continually finding new plants in nature or introducing new plants in the hobby and things like that. And it's a lot of it when you're doing commercial stuff is what sells. What's the most popular plant that people want for their aquarium?
Mm-hmm. And what would be the most popular this week?
Between either the dwarf hairgrass or the Hemianthus Monte Carlo, which is a carpeting plant that's very, very popular in the aquarium nowadays.
Oh, look at that, folks. Look at that. That's an amazing plant. So does that sit on the top of the aquarium or at the bottom, or does it not matter?
No, that sits on the substrate.
Right.
It will form a carpet across your substrate. It can grow anywhere from being at the water's surface down into across your substrate.
Very cool.
That's why it's called a carpet plant.
So Paul, tell us about the lighting that you've got set up here.
Well, it's nothing special. They are a Philips Smart Bright 1200 millimeter long daylight tube, or an 6500 Kelvin tube.
Mm-hmm.
CRI supposedly greater than 80 for people who understand colour rendering, trying to replicate what the sun produces.
Yeah. So
in the correct spectrums of blue, red, green, light.
Yep. So I noticed that
grow.
This one does not look pink and purple like some of the grow lights out there. This is a cool white.
Yes. Well, it's a cool white. Just a standard off the shelf LED tube.
Yep.
That you can buy from electrical wholesalers.
Right. And I also noticed that you've got the the camera's not going to pick that up very well, but you've got the readings and you've got the monitors in here. So you've got Inkbird system.
The Inkbird system, which allows me to monitor temperature and humidity. And I have the humidity controller wired up to keep the room at a constant around 60% humidity. Big thing about keeping both the humidity and temperature constant is that you're not sucking any of the airborne contaminants into your nice sterile containers of tissue culture media.
Yes, otherwise you're going to get those little blooms that we saw.
Exactly. You want the temperature to be stable, you want the humidity to be stable, because any time it varies outside the containers will attempt to equalise the humidity and the temperature, thereby sucking in through past the lid air from outside and therefore contaminate your media.
All right, so thank you so much, Paul, for showing us your tissue culture lab. That's been really, really informative, and I'm sure people will learn a lot from that. So for those that are in Australia or in Melbourne, where can they find you?
They can find me on the web under Reservoir Aquatics. The web page is www.reservoiraquatics.com.au.
Mm-hmm.
Online tissue culture plants, tcaquaticplants.com.au.
And you've just opened a shop too, I think.
Correct. Online shop.
Yep. And you're selling not only to aquatic shops, but you're also selling now directly to the public.
Yes.
That's exciting.
For people whose local aquarium shop doesn't stock aquarium tissue culture plants,
mm-hmm.
they can get them directly online from the lab. Yeah, obviously Instagram, Facebook, Reservoir Aquatics.
Mm-hmm. So all the social medias, they can find you anywhere. We'll put those on screen for everyone. So do follow Paul and his adventures in tissue culture. He shares a fair bit about what he learns and how it's going. And thank you, everybody, for coming along for this journey. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that tour. I certainly enjoyed going over to the lab and checking all things out. So give us a like if you liked the video. Give us a thumbs down if you hated it. Tickle that subscribe button if you'd like to see more of the same content. And until next time, bye.